Hey there, independent Scientologists. Discover a new perspective to your bridge by visiting ao-gp.org. Get in session with remote auditing using the theta meter. Are you curious about where you stand? Head on over to ao-gp.org now and take our free personality test. Join the growing group of independent Scientologists today.
Hi, and welcome to another AOGP Outside of the Church podcast. This is season 8, episode 19. The title of this one is, and I don't even know where this is going to go, and we've gotten to a point to where we just have to hit record because otherwise we lose it. You know, it's like Keith Richards in the middle of the night going, there's a hook, and he records it on his little recorder, and if you don't record it, you forget it, and it's gone. So this one is titled, Why Should You Investigate? And you're going to go, what does that have to do with independent Scientology? Well, my friends, hold on to your seats, grab your popcorn, and let's go down the rabbit hole with the Cheshire Cat and the rabbit. So I'm here with Arthur Mudakis, and this will probably be a fun one because who knows where it's going to go, because it can go in so many different directions. And what does independent Scientology have to do with investigations? Well, a lot, actually. If you've been listening to our podcast on what happened to Scientology, I think that should give you some insight into it, if not all of the other podcasts, as to why Scientology is a reviled topic on YouTube and on the internet and all of this. Well, maybe you should investigate it for yourself. So off to the races we go. Arthur, what direction do you want to head in first on this as to why should you investigate?
Well, I love that there's actually a course through
Mm-hmm.
Scientology that teaches you how to investigate, right?
Yeah.
Which makes it really interesting because there's a lot of to and froing around Scientology, isn't there?
Yeah.
And we just spoke for what, the last hour and a half
Uh-huh.
around stuff we won't discuss in this, but
Uh-huh. That led us to this.
investigating turns out to be it turns out to be the biggest component of it. And in order for me to get to this phase in my life, I've had to investigate an enormous amount.
Yeah, and it's important to say that if your powers of observation aren't great, well, you are the oblivious, and you just you don't see anything going on. People tell you this is the way that it is, and you just need to keep your head down and pay your taxes and be a good worker bee and that's unfortunately a sad state of affairs, and we have to start out from confront real quick, and we've talked about
Yep.
confront a lot, and the ability to look, because the ability to look is the willingness and the wantingness to go, hold on a minute, what is this? What is this all
Yep.
about? Why is it that, we were talking about this earlier, why is it that it's free to get on Facebook? Why is it free to do this, and why is it free to do that? Because you're the product if it's free. And you, my friend, are being used, because very little in this life is free. And that is something to investigate in and of itself, because we live on a planet where others charge others to survive, which is wonky in its own right.
Yes. And these have been current themes for both of us, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got your side of investigation going on at the moment. I've got my side of investigation going on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, it does take an enormous amount of confront. And it can be as simple as, you're doing something, or you're thinking or hearing something, and it just doesn't feel right. And quite often it'll just sit there. There's no further investigating
Yeah.
at all. And
Yeah.
you just put up with it, and you just live with it in a sense. And
Yeah.
then
Even
it could be many, many years later that you're like, oh, hang on, I knew I should have investigated that back then.
right. Yeah. I just paused and gone, okay, I'm going to pull this string. And that's what LRH says, is you're string pulling and find out what's going on. And the confront thing comes down to, even LRH said, I have a hard time, even I have a hard time confronting evil. And
Sure.
this isn't a podcast about how evil the physical universe and the evil that men do is, but one has to stop and go, okay, hold on a minute. What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And, we were talking about before the podcast, we were talking about some of the things that have happened to AOGP. And I mean, if you tell people some of the things that we've experienced just in our 13 years in existence, and you go, what? How
Yeah.
in the world could people who call themselves independent Scientologists or even anything remotely close to that do some of the things that they do to other people? Well, there's a reason. And you have to pull that string and investigate. And then you go, oh, wow. And we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about
Mm-hmm.
public of ours, and just little bits and pieces, little clues come out. Like Ronsorg, we were talking about, it was pointed out to me by someone. Ronsorg is above the underground Large Hadron Collider, CERN.
Mm-hmm.
It's just right down the road, a couple of clicks, and the big loop is underneath that. Isn't that curious? Is
It's extremely curious, um,
huh?
because there is, you hear things, other things, like tech being written on titanium plates and buried
Yeah,
all
and
around the
then
world, and
yeah,
things like
that's
that, and then you
yeah,
hear something like that from an independent organization. It's pretty interesting.
right, and that's the end. That's the end. That's the punchline at the end of our "What Happened to Scientology" podcast, the series that we're doing and everything,
Yeah.
and why this was done. But investigating and having the temeritude to do something like that takes, because people just, fuck, that's going to take a lot of work, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's as far as it goes. And then the next thing you know, you're eating GMO food and you're getting fat, and food doesn't taste the same, and all of this stuff. But the fact of the matter is that if you don't question everything and do
Hmm.
investigations into it, like LRH did with creating the data evaluators course and the data series policy letters, for example, you're toast. You're done, because
Yeah.
there's a lot going on, and the only way to find out is to do the research. And part of that in investigations, the most important thing of all is reliable source. Just because it's on the
Which is
internet doesn't make
really
it true,
tricky.
which is really tricky.
Yeah.
Right.
It's.
Be-
Did I tell you I managed to get myself a set of encyclopedias from '62?
I think you did, were they Britannicas or World Book?
No, they're not Britannicas. They're Cromptons.
Oh, yeah. We had those
Oh,
in school. Yeah,
Cromptons.
they're good.
Yeah,
I've used them for many a school paper. And that was, I mean,
yeah.
I I bought the whole Oxford English Dictionary series on eBay when I started the brick and mortar org, and then I also bought the 2-volume condensed series that comes with its own handy dandy little magnifying glass. And I have
Yep,
another
yep.
set that I got in South Africa for $5 off of an eBay like site that is from
Mm,
1950, in order to have the definitions of the words, because nobody can go in and change this. It's
that's right.
that's the thing with the internet, and this is part of what we're going to talk about here. At least I would like to talk about, is that
Yep.
if something LRH says, if it isn't written, it isn't true. Okay, and this is going back to the verbal tech checklist HCOB, and originally, and the verbal tech checklist HCOB was altered by the church to forward their means. And it used to say, was it written by someone who had the authority and you knew that they had the knowledge ability to write it? They took that out.
Mm, mm.
They took that
Mm.
out. It was on my
Mm.
student hat in 88, and it's gone now. So
Yep.
reliable source is terribly, terribly important. Just because somebody said something, I don't care who it is, especially if it's the president of the United States. Sorry, I had to say
Yep. Yep.
You don't know whether it's true or not. I'll give you an example that's manifest. NASA says there's no atmosphere on Mars of any noticeable size. Well, if that is the
Yep.
case, how can you have 3,000-mile long sandstorms? How?
Yep. Yep.
Because you have to have an
Yep.
atmosphere to carry the sand.
Yep.
See?
Well,
So
here's
that
an investigation for you. I don't even know if there is a Mars.
right?
Just
Well,
saying.
but I mean,
Just saying.
you have to go back that far, and you have to go, okay, so what have I been told and what is manifest?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What do we understand about the universe around us that we can then apply towards some other big ball of rock that we think is out there, that we can see that there's a big red planet
Yep.
at a certain point, and then that's what we call Mars and all this. But you really quite have to question everything and find out for yourself and go back. And not necessarily using the internet is the greatest of ideas. The internet used to be a lot better back in the early 90s than it is now, because it's so
Definitely.
controlled and dominated by a few large backbone providers. Anything can change because you would never be the wiser. The hardest thing to spot is a missingness.
But not only that, I could create something and say it's true.
Right.
I could create anything my imagine can concoct, and I can set it up in such a fashion that, it looks legitimate, it looks plausible, it
Mhm.
looks like the real deal. And the only person that would know if it was true or not is me.
Yeah, and we're running up against that even more so now. Like when we watch TikTok at night before bed and stuff like that, people are creating lies and doing a really good job with it in order to
Yep.
get enough viewership that they get paid by TikTok. And I mean, some of them make really good money by American standards in creating lies that gets people to look at
Yep.
something and
That's
causes
right.
such a stir that the lie almost becomes the truth, because so many people are, how could so many intelligent people be wrong? Well, I'll tell you, they can be really, really
Yep.
wrong, where they're saying Tom Cruise said this or did this today, and it is completely made up by AI, just to
Yep.
jump to the
Yep.
chase.
That's right.
And this is
That's
really,
right.
really dangerous territory.
And it is because, like we were saying before, there's a level of confront attached to this. There's so many different levels. Investigating theories, ideas, and that kind of thing is one thing, but what about investigating, you know, yourself? What about investigating, what's actually going on between you and somebody else you're having a, a difference with? Investigating what you're consuming, investigating your own body,
Yeah,
your own mind. Like this is not just investigating tinfoil hat theories or anything like that. It goes way deeper than that.
sure,
Way deeper.
sure. I mean, you look at the original OT1 that LRH wrote, and you look at the OT1 that the church uses present day. They are
Yep.
completely different things. They are not, the only recognizable thing is that it's done in an auditing session solo. That's it. That's the
Yep.
only
Yep.
thing. And if you didn't know that, and you did one thing and you did the other, that would be saying like, well, I had uh I had chicken last night for dinner, and well, actually, I had steak last night for dinner. They're two different things, and you wouldn't be the wiser. And
Yeah,
it,
that's right.
they're not the same thing. So what is that? That is an alter is. It is a lie. And if you
That's
don't
right.
investigate and you don't look into these things yourself and find out what it is, and this is why the church, for example, tells people, don't look on the internet, don't look on the internet, don't look on the
Mm-hmm,
internet. If
mm-hmm,
you do,
mm-hmm,
it's an overt. You need to go see the ethics officer. Don't look on the internet. But
mm-hmm.
nobody investigates to see why don't look on the internet. And they just take it as, I'm sorry, but literally gospel. Don't
Yep,
look.
yep,
That's the
yep.
opposite of investigate. And then you have reliable source. I mean, yeah, it's a slippery slope, but until you do, and you read enough stuff, and then you go, okay, this rings true. I've verified it through these sources and everything. I used to be one of the Kool-Aid drinkers myself. I'm sorry to use that expression, but I didn't look on the internet or anything like that because I was told I wasn't supposed to. And then one day I
Yep,
did, and I
yep,
was like, holy shit, this is not
yep.
anything that it was presented to be. And this podcast isn't necessarily just about the church, but I mean, whether it's chemtrails or whether it's is Joe Biden fit for office because of his senility, or I mean, any of these things, what's going on the island off of Antarctica, and why do these big huge
Mm,
waves of energy go off there and cause the South African weather to go nuts? And why is the ocean as warm as it is for the first as warm as it's ever been for the first time in recorded history? Why are these things
mm-hmm,
happening? Well, I mean, having a meteorology background, one of the reasons why we're seeing global warming is the entire solar system is getting warmer. It's not just us.
mm-hmm,
Temperatures are rising
mm-hmm,
on Jupiter, temperatures are rising on Uranus, temperatures are rising on Mars, because the entire system is going through a more energetic area in the Milky Way galaxy, which is that galactic plane. And this happens roughly every 10 to 11,000 years. But they're not going to tell you that because, wait for it, they're going to monetize it. This is the planet we live on.
yep, yep. Well, let me ask you a question. Why do you think people don't investigate things?
Well,
Well,
because
what do you reckon the driving force there is for
at the bottom
people?
of it,
Um, sure,
they're
yeah, at the
trying
bottom
to
of it.
they're too busy trying to survive. Because if they're too busy trying to survive, and I'm really reducing it to the absurd, but if you have to go out and you have to gather wheat and you have to make your bread and you have to make sure that you have firewood to put in the fire in order to stay warm, so on and so forth, you don't have any time to do anything else, nor the
Yep,
energy to do it,
yep.
because you're too busy trying to survive. And that's what this is all about. If life was
And
easier,
you're right in that regard.
if life was easier,
Yeah,
because
because it does take time.
yeah, by the time you get done,
Yeah,
if you're eating crappy food and you have crappy air and you have a crappy job that doesn't pay you enough in order to get by and get ahead and save money in case of an emergency, yeah, and you're being sold products that have been built-in obsolescence in them, whether it's your computer, whether it's your car, your house, whatever. Here in South Africa, it's cheap Chinese shit. Everything is cheap Chinese shit. We can make three
yep,
times off of them if we sell them something that lasts a month or 2 months instead of a year to 4 years, or whatever. We see it all the time here. It's
yep,
ridiculous.
yep,
That is the system that is
yep.
created in order to keep you running for cover, which prevents you from investigating. Look at what, I mean,
And it's a very well devised plan as well. Like
yeah,
it's really quite brilliant if you really consider it.
yeah.
Um,
You're given
Keep us busy, 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 busy. Keep us occupied, occupied, occupied.
yep.
And the thing is, like, even though there's a lot on the internet that is quite distorted, it doesn't take long to find some truth either at all.
No, no. If you have some
It,
sort of a hint of where to look, but
well, yeah, and all you have to do is start by asking questions.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean stopping at the first thing you come across. You have to look at multiple different things. Maybe even look at scholar articles and things like that to discover a truth in something. Like you were saying on a previous podcast around free energy devices and things like that. You know, on one hand, we're told one thing, but then there's all these people that are creating other things. And
that end
then
up
what I
dead.
find interesting about, well, yeah, and what I find interesting about those kinds of comments, there's already a label attached to it as well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, if you choose to believe in those things, there's the arguments are already created to be thrown at you. The names are already, you know, tinfoil hat gets thrown around so much, and all those kinds of things. It's such a common thing, you know, even around, you were saying earlier with chemtrails, oh, it's just water vapor, it's just this, it's just that. And then it becomes this really left, right, up, down kind of argument. You either choose one side or the other side,
Yeah.
and then this massive division gets created.
Right. And that goes back to what we were talking about in the last podcast about evaluation and invalidation. Those are the weapons of choice.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Make you question your
So,
sanity.
so if we go a real practical approach towards this, if somebody was to investigate something, like, is there a formula for investigating? Like, is there a process to investigate something?
Well, there is, and LRH delineates that in the data series policy letters of explaining to you what logic is and letting you know what ideally what you're looking at is an ideal scene, and what is the departure from the ideal scene. So if you were to look at it on a global scale, what would the ideal scene be for planet Earth? No famine, no homelessness, no health issues, on and on and on. Okay, now how do we work back from there? What is the ideal scene, and how are we departing from the ideal scene? Well, that comes up with what are called outpoints. So he's got a list of outpoints like omitted data, dropped out time, out sequence. And you can look at these situations and you can go, okay, so let's just say to just cut to the chase, the unsolvable of unsolvables, curing cancer.
Yep.
Okay, so for anything to persist, there's a lie behind it. Okay, so cancer is persisting, you know, in a large way. And why is that? Why can't we find a cure for cancer? They found a cure for AIDS, and that's a whole other story. Then you have to look at it from the data series and go, okay, what do we know? Okay, what do we not know? Okay, why don't we know this? And then you get to omitted data. That's an out point. The omitted data is they know what causes cancer. They do. They know what causes cancer, but the thing is, there's no money in it. There's no money in it. Okay. So this is where investigation leads you. You go, okay, so what's the why that is preventing this from getting resolved? Well, big pharma.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of. It's funny you say that, actually, because I'm still reading through the purification stuff, and it's a fascinating read. I'm really caught up by this piece of work, and the amount of research that gone into it really freaks me out.
Yeah, and it's
but
50
even as
years
something
old.
as simple as but even as something as simple as I was reading yesterday, how certain vitamins don't actually absorb into our body. And like with the cow mag, especially the calcium magnesium. So you can buy off the shelf calcium tablets. You can buy magnesium tablets. You can buy magnesium sprays. You know, there's all these variety of these two vitamins available to you, and some may work for you and some may not. But then reading the documents around the CalMag, you know, the body won't accept these if it's in a alkaline state. It actually requires some kind of acidity for these things to absorb into your body, especially the calcium.
Right.
And as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, the amount of times I've gone through a pharmacy or something, and then I see a tablet with CalMag, calcium and magnesium. Yeah,
Mhm.
the same combination, but it doesn't say drink it with, you know, some kind of acid like a vinegar or something like that, cider
Mhm.
vinegar or whatever. So your body will actually accept it. So people will go and blow money on all this stuff, thinking they're getting what the bottle's saying it's going to give them,
Right. When in fact
and
it's a
they just end up
placebo.
peeing it, and that's the other side to it as well. How many placebos are there?
Mhm. Mhm. Right. And then, that goes
Yeah.
back to cancer, cancer and acidity and alkalinity in the body and all this stuff. What role does sugar have in it? You know, and so that's the thing
Yeah.
is in
Yeah.
investigations is in, at the bottom of investigations is you can't do a proper investigation if you have misunderstood words. If you don't understand the subject, you're not going to be able to investigate
Yeah.
it. And that itself takes time. And you have to have a basic list of words in any field to be able to understand it. Therefore,
Mm,
the number of people that are radically against Scientology, every single one of those people has misunderstood words. Every single one of them. Every single person radically against whatever subject, they have misunderstood words. If the subject is correct and has validity, and you clear the words, when people
yes.
get into ARC with it, affinity reality communication, they then can understand it. Then they can walk back, pull the string, and find out through an investigation what is going on with it. But if you don't understand it, you can't investigate it. And this is where we get into false data. And LRH had a handling for that, believe it or not.
And it could be the other way around as well. You'll investigate to understand.
And sure. And that's the thing, but you have to cut that gradient. To investigating, you are understanding, but if you don't have the basic principles or you have wrong information, where there's something you can't think
Yeah.
with. Because on the data evaluators course, the first thing you do before you start the course on the check sheet is you do false data stripping regarding logic.
Hmm.
Logic. What is the logic
Yeah.
of a situation? One of the most illogical things that's right in front of people is we had a space program in the late 60s, early 70s, where we went to the moon, went to the moon, went to the moon, and then all of a sudden stopped. 50 years
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
now there's a space race again to get to the moon. Okay, that's something that needs to be investigated. Why is that? And then instead they developed a space shuttle and they stopped using the space shuttle because it was ridiculously dangerous and it killed many astronauts, or at least we know of at least one set still a little questionable on what really happened in 86. But
Hmm.
so, anything and everything can be questioned. And will you be able to pull the string on anything and get the real truth? Not always. Not always. But
Yeah.
a rat smells like a rat, and you can at least go, there's something there that we can't have access to that doesn't make sense. And then okay, maybe we should
Yeah.
stay away from that, or we're gonna have to leave that to be figured out later when we get more data, whenever that is. But false
Yep.
data
Yep.
is one place that you need to start, is to go, okay, what can you not think with the cure to cancer? That would be
Yep. Yep.
the first order of business. Clear that up, clear up the basic concepts of it, then do an investigation into it. If you're one of these bags full of chemicals that's supposed to kill the cancer before it kills the body, $17,000 a bag, somebody's making bank.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the data around all that stuff is there, and the
Mm-hmm.
statistics are not good,
No.
but it requires some effort to look at that. It
Right.
requires some effort to see what it's all about, to see what it actually is. And
Right.
and the thing is that information is actually out there. It's not
Yeah.
a secret.
No, you just, like you say, you need to know where to look. So, if you look at it from an LRH Scientology axioms viewpoint, why is famine persisting? Why is it in the
Yep.
21st
Yep.
century is anybody going hungry? Well,
Yep.
there's some pretty simple answers for that. Who
That's right.
benefits?
That's right.
Who
That's right.
benefits? Follow the money.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, what about like so far we've come into it with quite a heavy hit around, the more negative aspects
Yeah.
around it. But what about positive aspects? Like how can you use investigating um, for good things?
For example.
All right. So would teaching or going to a school, that's a form of investigating as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Learning a new something.
Mm-hmm.
You're investigating an ability that you didn't have before.
Mm-hmm. Well, knowledge is said to be power, to be able to understand things. That's where it
Yeah,
all starts, positive or negative or neutral, is what data are we operating off of that we are calling, okay, this is knowledge. Your body needs oxygen to survive. Provable. It's provable.
sure,
Your body needs
sure.
water to survive. There are people that fast for 30 or 40 days without food. They do drink and they can survive. And they say that there's all kinds of benefits to fasting. So
Yes.
when we know this, and I'm just saying, you can start in any area and just tick it off and go, okay. So do for example, and this is a positive, but they know how electricity works, but they don't know why. That's
Which is
interesting.
really interesting,
That's really
isn't
interesting.
it?
21st
All
century, we
right.
don't know why. And even LRH makes fun of it, that you're using energetic atoms to bounce around to heat water to push a generator. Wait a minute.
Yep. Yep.
Wait a minute.
Yep.
That seems really, really archaic. But yet we do it at this very moment. We are doing that in nuclear power plants all over the planet. Chernobyl was doing the same thing. See? So what do we know? What do we
Yep.
not know? It seems like the boundaries, like the production of energy, the boundaries, they only go so far, and then it's boom. Okay, this is as far as we can get. And then you look in another area, like I was telling you with the book with William Bramley, that's available on the internet in a PDF format for free. William Bramley researched, why is it that mankind goes to war with one another? And he
Mm.
goes on a line and goes, okay, it's off-world influence, third party. Goes, oh, that's just too
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. Gives up. Says, okay, I'll give it another try and I'll go in from this angle. Ends up off-world, third party, and this is
Sure.
why man goes to war. And he does this 7 times, and he finally just threw his hands up in the air and said, oh, this is why these things happen. But because
Yep.
knowledge is the thing, the actual truth of a situation is what needs to be investigated, good, bad, or indifferent, as to what are we
Mm.
not being told, what are we being fed. You don't question it. Your parents are Baptist, you're raised as a Baptist, you're raised as a Scientologist. This is your truth, and you don't know any better.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I've just looked up the definition of this word. So the first definition we have is carry out a systematic or formal inquiry to discover and examine the facts of an incident, allegation, etc., so as to establish the truth.
That's right.
And it's interesting, this word fact, because there are so many things that we believe to be fact actually aren't.
Right.
And
And
that's just the first definition of this word.
that's right. That's on the data
Um,
series as well. LRH says, what is a fact?
that's right. And what's interesting, because looking at the derivation of it, um, it's from Latin, um, something that's traced out, um, something that you track or trace out.
Hmm?
And so that explains it quite nicely, actually, because to investigate something to get the facts, you kind of do have to create a map of some kind to
Mm-hmm.
get to the truth of it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
or
you know,
to investigate the fact of it.
a mind map sort of thing. You have to put it. You have to do a demo of it and say, you know, like the pictures on the wall connected with yarn and pins. You know, this
Yeah,
leads to this. This
yeah,
leads to this, and you have to actually get it into the physical universe and do a demo of it in order to go, okay, this
yeah.
is how this is all correlated. Correlation is part of data evaluation, and that's what the
That's right.
data series is about.
Well, just a couple of weeks ago, I was scrolling through Instagram as one does, and have you heard of this Mandela effect?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I saw this really cool video and about the heart and where the heart is on the body.
Right. I remember us
Now
talking
I don't
about
know
that.
about you. Yeah. So growing up, the heart was, we've all been led to believe it's on
Mm-hmm.
the left of our chest, and it's actually in the center, right? So somebody's created this video saying this whole Mandela effect is going on, where there's a new breed of people, and this new breed of human race, their hearts are actually in the center. So I managed to get myself some encyclopedias.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as
Where do you
one
think
is
the
want to
heart is?
do.
Where do you
Yeah.
think the heart is? It's
Well,
right in the center.
yeah,
It
I
always
was
has been. It never was on the left. It never
yeah,
was on the right. It's always
right.
been there in the middle of the rib cage.
Right. When I used to go to school in elementary school, they'd say, okay, so you need to put your hand over your heart, and your hand, and people can't see this. So put your
That's
hand
right.
over your right hand is over my left breast, and that's where your
That's
heart
right.
is. I pledge allegiance to the flag, da 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 da. And you're like, okay, well, that's where my heart is. All right. I believed it.
Yep. Yep. So I went into an investigation, right? And I found it, I saw it in the encyclopedia, and it was right in the middle. And I'm thinking, how can I have not known this? So I started asking people around me, hey, curious question, where's the heart?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, it's on your left.
Mm-hmm.
Next person, where's your heart? Oh, it's on my left.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your heart? Oh, it's on my left. Everybody I asked said the same thing. Yet, like, how does this work, John? How does this happen? How can pretty much everybody I know that I've asked this question all said the same answer? When I told them it was in the middle, they were like, "Oh, really?" They're all shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Are they the old human, or are they the new human?
Well,
Are they subject to the Mandela effect, or is it just a lie that worked
right. Well, that comes down to
really well?
false data that was propagated so well that everybody believed it.
Yeah, you see it in films. People, vampires get stabbed where? In the heart, on the
Right.
left of their chest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like and that's just one thing. Like, imagine how many other things requiring some kind of investigation.
Yeah. Well, another easy to find thing is the food triangle, the food pyramid,
Yep.
and how awful it is for you. But it's put there, and I
Mm,
remember in sixth grade being taught the food pyramid, and this is that you should have so many carbs a day
yes, yes.
and all this stuff, and you, you wouldn't know otherwise. Well, why would they lie to me in elementary school?
Yep, yep, yep,
I
yep,
did. I remember doing tests and quizzes on corporate logos in elementary
yep,
school. Can you
yep,
believe that?
yep.
What logo is this? What does that have to do with education? It has everything to do with education because you're being
Yes,
trained to be a
yes.
consumer.
That's right. That's right. And the thing is, we live our existences in our current forms. And, I'm almost reaching 50. And it's only been in the last maybe 10 years that I've started to see all these lies.
Yeah.
And for the first chunk of my life, I'm like, my God, what else is there?
Mm-hmm.
What else? Well,
Right.
it just doesn't end.
Yeah, the hardest thing to spot is a missingness. You didn't know that you
Yeah,
didn't know. Unconscious
yeah.
incompetence, and that's what they bank on. And you have to investigate and you have to question everything.
You mean you have to take time out
Right.
to know something?
Yeah.
You mean you actually have to put some kind of effort into open your eyes a little bit, to inquisite, to empower yourself?
Yeah. You have to make it a mandatory, because how does a person feel? And this is what we do in Scientology, is the rudiments. When you're auditing somebody, you have to get their attention off of what happened, what's going on in life at the current moment, so that you can get some auditing done. Well, the second rudiment is a present time problem. And
Mm,
95% of the time, the present time problem for all of my PCs is money.
yeah, yeah,
So you're
yeah,
running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to cover all of these things and make this money and all of this stuff. And you have to ask yourself, and you have to investigate, why is it that it is so difficult to hold a position in space and survive? It all comes down to scarcity of money or exchangeability of
yeah,
things. You can't trade a chicken for a vice grips normally,
yeah, yeah,
unless it's with your neighbor.
yeah.
That it's just, that's the thing, is you have to look at what is persisting. Well, it has been persisting my entire life, that I'm running for cover,
Yeah.
trying to survive. I don't know about anybody else, but I can say that for myself. I spent 25 years in a constant danger condition selling stuff on street corners, because that's what Scientologists did.
Mm,
And sometimes it
yep,
was really
yep,
good and sometimes it was really bad. And the only constant was, it was a constant danger condition, because everybody else was in a
mm-hmm,
danger condition. And then I saw it
yep,
started
yep,
out with cash, and then it went to debit cards, and then it went to credit cards. And I said, uh-oh, this isn't good. The middle
yep,
class doesn't have money anymore. They have to
yep,
put things on credit. We had a huge spike in chargebacks and a huge spike in bad checks. We went through these periods, and then that's when I said, I need to investigate this. This was only 4 or 5 years in that I started seeing these things. And I grabbed the book Behold a Pale Horse. I grabbed the book, Gods of Eden. I was already a Scientologist, and then I asked the church what their viewpoint was on these books, and they said both of these books have been
ooh,
deemed unreadable, and they are on the no read list, or you will not be able to proceed up the bridge. Isn't that interesting?
mm, mm,
I've mentioned this in other podcasts,
yeah,
but this is a form of investigation, albeit over decades time. But the thing
yep,
is when you're told not to look at something, that's the red flag of red flags.
yep, yep,
Why not?
yep,
Why not?
yep,
Is the Federal Reserve part of the US government? No. Is the IRS part of the US government? No.
yep,
Is
yep,
free energy a real thing? Yes. You can find it.
yep.
Do the people that develop free
Only if
energy
you're a
end up
conspiracy
dead?
theorist.
Yeah, only if you're a conspiracy theorist. And
Yeah,
even the term
yeah.
conspiracy theorist has been debunked, because conspiracies do exist, and they are there. History is riddled with conspiracies. They're everywhere.
Well, I think the way the word is used, it's completely misunderstood.
Yeah.
Because in order to conspire something requires some kind of intention,
Yeah. Right. What's the
a
why?
purposeful act of some kind.
Right.
Um, a theory, a conspiracy theory, is it actually a really thing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
Like,
what's
do those
going.
two words actually appropriately work, or have we been
Not
taught that they work?
you've been taught, you've
You
been
know what I
taught
mean?
that they work, and then it connotates, when we get back into the symbols thing, it makes people think, oh, well, that's just crazy. No, it's not. It's not, because there are lots and lots. I mean, hyenas conspire to kill a deer on the African plain. They conspire. Lions work together
Yep.
and conspire to survive. so do chimpanzees. It's not something that doesn't happen. It is something that does happen. It happens every day. It's a conspiracy is an organization for a desired result, whether good, bad, or indifferent.
Yep. All right. So conspire, make secret plans jointly to commit an unlawful or harmful act.
Right.
Seem to be working um, of events or circumstances seem to be working together to bring about a particular negative result.
Well, again, and that comes from the viewpoint of
Okay.
one man's freedom fighter is another man's what? Terrorist. Because
Well,
if you could be
looking at
open and
the
honest with people, you wouldn't have to conspire in
yeah,
secret. What is that? That is a withhold. What is a withhold? A withhold is you're withholding something that is a contra survival act that you do not want to reveal to someone or someone's else. Period.
yep, pretty much. Um, and what's interesting as well is this one also comes from Latin. Um, together with,
Mm-hmm.
which is very different because it doesn't say anything about a harmful act or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
it's a
has
third
this word
dynamic.
come from something, yeah, like you were saying with a pack of hyenas, they're together with each other
Mm-hmm.
for a common goal, which is food.
Right.
But are they actually conspiring?
Well, like Ellerate says, the only way to control someone, or let's say a someone could be a gazelle, and the hyenas are conspiring to control that gazelle to make it a meal. What are they doing? They're
Yep,
lying to the gazelle by hiding in the grass. That I mean, you look at
yep,
how they're designed; they blend in just like a gazelle does.
yep,
So
yep.
I mean, this is whether you want to go say, well, this is nature, this is God, or whatever. It is an
Blah, blah,
inherent,
blah.
yeah,
Yep.
it is an inherent part of this universe that deception is a way to survive, right? Right? Because if
Well,
if
if
you
we
were
really
open and
break it
honest,
down,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, go on. If you're open and
Well,
honest.
if you're open and honest with somebody and you tell them everything that you're going to do, you're not going to live very long
No, that's right. That's right.
because they will use your honesty against you. And in the
Yes.
personality test, they call this a doormat. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
You're a
Yes.
people pleaser, you're trying to help people and everything like that because you're a good person. But the thing is you need to realize that they're not everybody out there is made of the same fabric you are. And the only way to control somebody or something, whether it's a gazelle or a person, is to alter things so that they look one way, then they are another. This is why investigation is necessary. This is why conspiracies
Yeah.
exist.
Yes. Yes.
They're trying to win control over something they don't control. So, conspiracy to, I mean, I'll give you a real life example. In the US, over the last 2 years, there have been a rash of mysterious fires that have occurred at food processing plants throughout the United States. It is a
Yep.
thing. You can see it, you can research it, you can pull the string on this and go, wow, isn't that interesting that these food processing plants they're being demolished? Well, who benefits
Mm,
on that?
mm,
Pull the string. What if you're
yep.
driving the price of food up, you're forcing people to eat things they wouldn't normally eat because there is a scarcity of chicken fingers.
Yep.
Quite
Yep.
literally, this is what's happening. I'm not making this up. There's a scarcity of chickens. They're killing millions of chickens, saying it's this flu or that flu, and then the chicken processing plant
Mm-hmm.
gets burned down. This is a conspiracy. It doesn't happen naturally unless there's a virus
Yep.
that kills all of a particular type of tree. And maybe even then, that's a natural conspiracy that happens within the fabric of natural selection. I mean, we had that in the
Yep.
US. We had a type of tree that's almost extinct now because it got a particular disease. Well, you could look at this as a disease of the mind where people feel that they need to make food scarce in order to cull the population down from over 8 billion plus 200,000 plus people a day. Well, they're going to do something about it. They're going to make food scarce so that the population reduces, because the less population there is, the less of a population could actually fight back if they did something to subjugate them,
Yep. Yep.
for example.
Just as an example.
Just putting that out there.
Well, just while we're talking all about this, like we're using all these words, conspiracy and like all these flash things, but it all comes down to one thing, really, doesn't it? It all just comes down to this word lie.
Yeah. At the end of the day,
All of it.
lie.
Yep. And
Walter
if we
Ignorance.
look at the word, which I conveniently have in front of me,
Ta-da.
an an intentionally false statement.
Intentionally false statement.
Yep. Used with reference to a situation involving deception or founded on a mistaken impression.
Right. So,
and you could probably replace that word mistaken with intentional impression.
So it would be fair to say that one person could conspire as could two or more people could conspire in that definition, right?
Yes. A group could certainly provide false statements.
Yeah. And this is the term where the term gaslighting comes in, is that a person is saying, no, it's not that way. It's you, it's this, and that could be one person that is doing that. That would be an example there. That the person is trying to send somebody around the bend and make them question themselves about something that they knew was another way. That is one way that this could occur. The other way could be you just tell a child this is this when it's really not that. That's another way that
like Santa Claus or Easter Bunny.
Right, like where the heart is.
And what's interesting, as a community, I've often thought this, we celebrate lies to our children.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I remember, and it's a hard one to sort of separate yourself, isn't it? Because as a society, everybody celebrates Christmas, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have no issue around Christmas or anything like that. But the issue I do have is around this Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're telling your children that there's this Santa Claus to be good. Like there's a whole story that goes with this one false statement.
Manipulation.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens to the child when they discover, that it was a lie the whole time?
Right.
They reach an age where they can actually comprehend this lie.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of devastation most of us in Western societies have faced, and the stupid thing is we do it to our kids on top. No matter how painful it was to us as a child to know that
we perpetuate
this isn't real.
Yeah.
You told me for the first 5, 6, 7 years of my life that this was truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're telling me it's not real. It's a game you play. Like, how insane is that?
Yeah. And then you look at that as the framework for lots of other things that has been perpetuated from generation to generation to generation to generation. And then if you pull the string and you look at these lineages of these, well, whether it's Easter or it's Christmas or it's Halloween, and I'm not dissing these things, because people really take it they take it personal, because they have mental image pictures and associated with it, and emotions associated with it, good, bad, or indifferent, and it makes them feel warm and fuzzy, or, if it's Thanksgiving, the family gets into an argument. Oh God, there's another
Yep.
Thanksgiving.
Yep. Yep.
Whatever. But, the lineage on this stuff and what the true story is about these things and why it's a Christmas tree and who St. Nicholas was and all this stuff. If you pull that string and you look at it and you go, wow, this isn't what I was told. Is that a conspiracy?
Yeah. Oh, and there's still ideas like now with social media, it's not uncommon for these holidays to come around, and then that's not what it was. It was actually this, and there's 50 different versions of what it actually was. Being from a pagan celebration to psychedelic visuals to, like, my God, you'll never find the end of Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You'll
It's
never find it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
You'll never find the true meaning of Halloween.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's that many stories of what Halloween actually is.
Yeah.
Where it's come from.
It's subdivided and subdivided and subdivided.
But it's so celebrated, which blows my mind.
Yeah,
like it blows my mind.
It's one of those things where, like, the Greek gods, there were these gods for different things. They had this, and then the Romans were like, you know what? We're going to use that.
That's right.
I mean, that's literally what happened.
See, now that is fact.
Yeah, that is fact.
That is fact.
That is fact. That's
you know
what happened. That's what happened. And then you take that, and then it started to wander all the way over to Britain and France and all this stuff. And then okay. And this was within the last 12,000 years since the Great Reset happened. And there was a global flood because the planet got pummeled by a big rock, and all the information was lost, and this was as good as we can do. Really? Yep. Afraid so. Read the Iliad and the Odyssey and try to get past the third page, and you'll go, this was written by a third grader. Yeah. Okay. Is it any wonder that we have a guy that comes with a sleigh in the air with reindeer, and one has a red nose, but this is as good as it gets. And if you don't question it, well, that's on you. Because what? How could that possibly be that these things? Well, it's true. And there's a whole economy based around it now, where Christmas, I worked in retail. I know 75% of all sales occur between Halloween and December 24th. And that's the driving factor from the Romans, borrowed from the Greeks in just about everything because they couldn't come up with their own thing.
Yep.
This is just recent history. This is as good as it gets. And so that's why it's important to investigate the derivation of things. If you can find the derivation of things, and that's why in what you were talking about, it's important to get something in writing pre-internet, and that you're not even guaranteed then. You're not even guaranteed then that the person that wrote it, did they have the authority to write it? Because LRH talks about what dictionaries and what dictionaries not to use and the stories behind them, and that you'd probably be better off not going with this dictionary as opposed to this dictionary because it's reliable or unreliable source.
And imagine the amount of investigating it would have taken to even get to that. Yeah.
And bias is an incredibly, and it's something we haven't mentioned. Bias is so influencing in everything. Who benefits? Who? Because if you go under the umbrella of who has the time and the money to investigate, like again, this guy William Bramley, he wrote this book, Gods of Eden. Somehow he had to figure out a way in order to pay the bills and keep food on the table to write this book. LRH had to figure out a way to pay the bills and write these books and do these lectures and everything. And he was smart enough to figure out a way to do this stuff. and give this data to people. But you have to question, why did they write this? What was their intention?
Yes.
Was their intention to be true, or was it their intention to sell something? Coca-Cola. Why did they create Coca-Cola? Well, people liked it. Originally had cocaine in it. It's sugar water. It's almost all profit. Does that mean it's good? No. So you have to back this up and go, okay, how did this come into being? And what were their intentions?
Yep.
I mean, that's really where it has to start when it comes to reliable source. You know?
Yeah. Well, look, I can walk through the supermarket now and go to buy orange juice, and it'll say on the bottle, now with vitamin C. You know, what the hell have I been drinking before that?
Yeah, right. Because sailors back in the 1400s realized that they needed
Oh
to
my
take
God.
orange trees with them on the ships in order to prevent scurvy. They had to
Yes,
have
yes, yes.
something there to get vitamin C. So what changed that now with vitamin C, and you see it everywhere here in South Africa. You see it on these things. It says cranberry juice, 100% cranberry, and then it says and other fruits.
That's right. That's right.
Wait
That's
a
right.
minute. Last time I checked, 100% meant 100 times out of 100 times of a group of these things meant that it's only cranberry juice. So
Yep.
right there in doing investigations, you have to go, this is a lie.
Yes, yes.
Right in
Yep,
front of you. Do you
yep.
recognize that it is a lie? And the thing is a lot of people don't recognize it is a lie. Oh, it's red cranberry juice. Boom, into the cart it
Yep,
goes.
yep, yep.
Whether it's
And the
food,
funny thing is,
truth.
when people take this stuff a little more seriously for their own lives and their own well-being, it blows my mind at how much mockery comes with it from other people.
Yeah.
Like the
Evaluation
level
and
of
invalidation.
ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and I'm not saying ignorance as an offensive word, but to the true sense of its word,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, how can you not investigate this? How can like how long have we been around as a human civilization and we still don't know what our food is?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
How can we not know what water is? Like it's but we know what money is. We know what Halloween is.
mm-hmm.
We know Santa Claus is real for a moment of our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So
Uh,
it's a matter of bias, prejudice, and ignorance
yeah,
based off of what you
and
were originally
laziness
taught,
as
and
well.
yeah, laziness and lack of
Yeah,
confront or willingness to confront is
yeah,
why it's so important to just because even if you're the most pious of pious people and you had the most perfect upbringing and your parents were just freaking awesome and they taught you everything that they needed to know, I've told people this before, that policy, LRH created all of this policy and he created all of this tech, and that's great and it works. But the thing is that
mm,
policy, what you learn to do and what not to do from your parents and or Scientology policy, the policy is only as good as you have one thing: understanding/agreement. If other people
mm.
don't agree with you on those policies, it doesn't matter what was written, how it was said, and how true it is. You've got nothing because you have no agreement, because
Yep,
there's no understanding, there's no ARC.
yep, yep, yep,
No matter
yep,
what it is, cranberry juice, sugar, cancer, that sort of a thing.
yep,
And that's
yep,
where lies enter into it. And that's why it's important to investigate, because you have to have the truth. But you can, I mean, we were just talking about how isolating it can be to be a trained auditor, be a
yes,
Scientologist, and how
yes,
you want a third dynamic and everything like that. It is incredibly hard to create a third
yep,
dynamic for anything, to get agreement and to get policy. and all of this stuff, because people are being pulled in so many directions trying to survive and have fun
Yep.
in the middle of all of that, that everything else gets lost to a certain degree.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's, so
Yep.
that's why you have to keep your eye on the ball and go, okay, 75, 95 years I've got, and less than half of that is really, really something I can use to get something done, because the body starts getting older or has issues,
Mm.
get tired easier, and you're being fed sugars. And you see what I mean? I mean, I could sit here and I could take a person's
Yep.
life
Yep.
and say, okay, you've got 90 years. Okay, more than half of that you spend sleeping. More than
Yep.
half. Okay, so now you got 45 years. You want me to keep going?
Yep. 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 Yep.
How many hours a day are you going to spend chasing that dollar?
Yep.
Why are you chasing that dollar? Because they want you to think that you need them in order to chase that dollar, which means you have to pay 2, 3, 4 times as much for everything in order for somebody to lend you the money to buy that car, to buy that house, to buy your bridge, to do. See?
Yep. Yep.
There
Yep.
it is. And that's why you need to investigate. Is it easy, even though you know it? And this is my point. Is it easy, even though you know and you pulled a string and you've investigated? No. Are you and
Yep.
I rich?
Yep.
And we know the difference.
Nope. Well, define rich.
Well,
Financially rich? No.
informationally rich, yes. But we are still
Very
caught.
different.
We are caught in
Yep.
caught in that system. But like LRA says, you cannot be the adverse effect of something you understand. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard. But the thing is you are the captain of your fate, the master of your soul. And to me, there is absolutely nothing more important than that. And knowing that you can help others if you can get them to understand and look, which comes from investigation. You can give them the data, but you say, don't take my word for it. If it's true for you, it's true for you.
Yeah. Yep.
You can lead
Which
a horse to
kind of
water.
amazes me. Yeah, which kind of amazes me, like if we bring it to Scientology, even just this aspect, like it's something that's taught through Scientology, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of amazes me at how, okay, as a basic, you're taught how to investigate something, because even he says, find out for yourself.
Yeah.
Really simple. Try the process and let me know if it works or not.
Mm-hmm.
Try this and you'll see for yourself. He's kind of giving you a guarantee, and if you're not sure about that guarantee, well, find out.
Yeah.
And it
Look
kind
for
of
yourself.
amazes me at how, as yeah, and it kind of amazes me at how it's all turned into a shit sandwich. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, how could this really major part just be completely left out? Like, how does this work?
Yeah. Well, and you look at it from the church, and it's like, well, this is what we say, this is what goes. And then something
Mm,
goes wrong, and they go, well, our auditor screwed up. Now you need to give
yes.
us
Yep.
this much more money because our auditor screwed up on you. Hang on.
Yep. Yep. Or the tech was wrong. You
Right.
have to buy it again.
Buy it again. You have to do the whole bridge again. You're not
Yeah.
OT8. You're not clear. Okay.
Yep.
The,
Yep.
these are prime examples.
Yep. Yep. It's an interesting subject, this one. Very interesting.
Yeah. And it goes
Although
in every
for me
direction.
personally, and it does, and it does. Um, and I think for me personally as well, there's a bit of a dark side to it, because when you really start investigating elements of your own life, it can be quite upsetting.
Yeah. It's hard
And
to
for
look
me
at.
personally, oh, big time. Yeah. For me, it hit me really, really hard initially when I started asking certain questions. Whereas now I'm in a space now where it's like, okay, what else can I ask? For me, it's snowballed. It's the opposite.
Mhm.
What else should I know? What else do I need to know? What else should I be investigating? But when I first started investigating and I started seeing these things for what they were, it was
Mhm.
very daunting process. And then the more I investigate, the harder I find to have conversation.
Right. And
Or I listen to conversation and I just think, you know, oh, how come you didn't look up the side effects of that medication?
mhm.
How come you didn't, why are you taking that when, there's so much information that is going to destroy you?
Mm. Well, it
You
it's
know what
one.
I mean? Like you've got to
Yeah.
observe these things and be part of it, but
Mhm.
it hurts your eyes and it hurts your heart as well.
Yeah. And it's like LRH says, now I'm supposed to. Oh, it's October. Now I'm
Yeah,
supposed to celebrate Halloween. Oh, it's December. Now I'm
yeah,
supposed to celebrate Christmas, just as, really benign examples. But it's
yeah.
now I'm supposed to do this. Now I'm supposed to do that. And people live their entire lives, series of lives on now I'm supposed to, because they didn't
Mm,
have the fortitude or the ability to confront and ask any questions. And that has a lot to do with a person's case in Scientology as to
yeah,
what kind of shape
yeah.
they're in, what their tone level is, all of this stuff. And it's really unusual that LRH was able to get as far as he got and try to get people to take that information, read it, find out if it's true for themselves, and use it on others in order to raise
Yes,
up out
yes,
of this now I'm supposed to sort of a thing. And
yeah.
to me it seems ridiculously obvious as to why the subject was scuttled and taken out and has been turned into one giant implant station for anybody who rears their head high enough to want to ascend as a being spiritually, at least in
Yeah,
that wise. You can ascend as a being spiritually in other ways too. I'm not saying they don't exist, but this one works really, really well. But then you're being used, you're being lied to.
that's right. That's
You're
right.
right back where you started.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
And
pretty much. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
yeah, one dead end and another dead end and another dead end and another dead end. And then you go, yeah, I'm out. Bang. That's it.
Yeah,
A person
yeah,
can only take so much. And that's one of the reasons why we
yeah.
do these podcasts is to if we can get through that veneer and get you to just question something and research it and look into it and find out if it's true for you, whether it's woodworking or it's Scientology or misunderstood words or false data or conspiracy
That's
theories
right.
or just be a little bit happier. I mean,
Yeah.
happiness is real, and you can be happy, and you can have goals, and you can be a spiritual being if you want to. It's just it's it's a system that is designed against you as a spiritual being on this planet for a reason,
Mm,
and you
mm,
have to investigate
yeah.
it. It shouldn't be all about the money. It should be about happiness and helping others be happy,
Well,
whatever that is.
you're saying you use the word happy. I use the word inner freedom or the words inner freedom.
Yeah, well, right. Because if you're,
Yep.
you're free and you're not chained down, that happiness is
Yep.
freedom.
Yep.
You can't be happy
Yep.
without having personal freedom. You know,
That's right. That's right.
period. Happiness is sort of a
And that
middle
doesn't
phrase
mean,
for it.
doing whatever I want and creating anarchy. It
Right.
means that heaviness on my chest is now lifted. That heaviness, that mental heaviness, I don't have to burden with anymore. I don't have to carry it around all the time with me anymore.
Hmm.
I can be part of this game and still remain me and allow them or others to continue being who they are.
Right.
Um,
The definition of responsibility is not just always do something.
yeah,
Sometimes it's just don't do anything at all. I mean, that's
yeah.
tough to do and a tough pill to swallow. But if you can do that, you will find inner peace because
Well,
you
it didn't
understand
come
it.
for free. I can guarantee you that.
No.
It didn't come without some level of effort either. It took an enormous amount of effort and investigating to get to that point.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, right now that I'm at that point, now my journey will begin,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
which is really interesting.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. You can make the trip,
yeah, yeah.
but you got to look. You got to
Pretty
be willing
amazing.
to look. You got to be able to confront. You got to be able to investigate and smell a rat or smell a rose either way and
Yeah.
write it in one column or write it in
Yep.
another and go, okay, that's one down, so many more to go. And then, but
Yep.
trust your own knowingness. If I were to say anything about investigations, trust your own knowingness above and beyond
Mm,
everything else, and get out of the physical universe, and just that curious, desired, enforced, inhibited, known, refused, and above that, know, KNOW, and understand the CDEI scale is imperative. Because if what the
yep.
ultimately at the end of the day, if you know, you know, you know, and things will come right.
I agree. Well said.
So we're
What
gonna
do you
call
reckon?
it.
That's the end?
Yeah, we're gonna call it a day on this. Thank you for being here, Arthur,
Mm,
and
Thanks for
um,
having me.
yeah, everybody do your due diligence, and namaste, and we love you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.